Hello, everybody, and welcome to this talk about how to create a kick-ass founding team. My name is Janneke Niessen. I'm partner at CapitalT. We are a pre-seed and seed fund. We invest in companies that solve real problems with AI in digital health, education, climate tech, future of work, and the new social Web3. I'm really excited to be here today and to talk about founding teams. I've been a founder myself. I started and exited 2 companies in the past. And through that, I learned a lot about getting the right team and obviously made a ton of mistakes. But now I started CapitalT with Eva, and she did actually her PhD on this topic. She studied entrepreneurial teams, and we use this model also to evaluate entrepreneurial teams when we invest. So combining these 2 sources, I'm going to share the biggest learnings with you today. There's obviously also room for questions, so please put them in the Q&A. And if we can't get to these questions during this talk, then feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So I think first thing to mention is that there has been a lot of research that's done on teams and how they should work. So there's a lot of proof that is underlying some of the lessons I'm sharing today, but the lessons are around the team dynamics, around diversity. There's so many things you can look at a team. And I think the most important thing is that we do a lot of things just unconscious. And I think team is one of the things where you should be really conscious about how you work together, what actions you should take. So that's why I want to remind you today of a few things that I feel are the most important. So when we look at teams, the first thing we look at is personality traits. And then those are those traits that have a proven positive impact on venture success. So you should think of perseverance, resilience, stress resistance, and those are all really important to see whether somebody can become a successful entrepreneur. And people assume that those are all, since they are all soft skills, that you cannot measure them, but you actually can. And we also try to make sure that when we speak to entrepreneurs, that we try to get hints from their background, because how people have behaved in the past, how they grew up, how they dealt with side jobs, those are all indicators of these elements. So perseverance, resilience, and stress resistance, really important ones. But within these personality traits, there's also one that is really important, and that is passion for entrepreneurship. And what I think is really interesting on the passion for entrepreneurship is that that's the only part where diversity is not a good thing. Diversity is crucial everywhere in the company on different levels, but when it comes to passion for entrepreneurship, it's very important to be aligned, because the decisions you make short-term and long-term are very much driven by this passion. So there's 3 types of passion for entrepreneurship. There's a passion for founding. Those are the people that really like the initial phase of a company. They like to start and then quickly move on, either sell or put somebody else in place. And so that's one passion. Then you have people that have a passion for inventing. Those are the typical engineers, the product people that really like to build something and don't necessarily get excited about bringing other people on board and growing the team. You see these teams very often at universities. And then you have people that have a passion for developing, that like to build for the long term, that like to build a culture and a team. So you can imagine that the decisions you make are really different if you have these different passions. And I think what is important when you start a company together with others, that you discuss this. What really excites you? How do you see the future of the company? Where is your passion? And then you can have different passions, but you need to align on where you want to go with the company. And often when people start a company together, they assume that they have the same view. So they assume they all want the same thing because they are starting a company together. And that's not the case. And what you see, if people do not discuss this and do not align, then after 3 to 5 years, these teams break up. And that is a pity because it's not often necessary. And then there's also the wrong kind of passion. So this passion is a very important indicator also for the stress resistance and the perseverance that people have and the creativity they put in the company. But it can also be the wrong kind of passion. If you start a company to just make money or for social status, it's actually proven that those entrepreneurs actually get much more often a burnout. It's the wrong kind of passion. And everybody that's listening that is an entrepreneur know that it's a tough thing. And if you don't have the right motives to do it, you probably won't keep up. So we look at personality traits, then we look at passion, and thirdly, we look at human capital skills. Are there truly complementary skills and knowledge in the team? And we look at startup skills, certain industry experience, but also very important failure experience. Because if people have failed in the past, and it doesn't need to be that they failed entirely with a company, but you can fail on many different levels. If you have this failure experience in the industry that you're now active, then you often become more successful. So these are more the hard skills. And then what I think is the most important one that we look at is the team dynamics. So you can put the smartest people in the room together, but if they do not have a shared vision, they won't share that knowledge, and it's basically useless to have it. And then we look at the team dynamics. So is there enough psychological safety in the team? Is there this shared vision? But also really important and quite counterintuitive is there enough task-related conflict? If it's one big happy family, for us that's not always per se a good sign. Having this task-related conflict is crucial to build a great company, and it's also an important indicator for other things. So task-related conflict means that you can have very heated discussions on the content. So this doesn't mean the type of conflict where you say, oh, I don't like you. It's not the personal conflict. It's really on the content. And why is that so important? It is an indicator for the diversity in terms of skills and knowledge in a team. And because if you all agree, you're probably very similar. And that's not a good indicator for the diversity side of things. So it's a good indicator for diversity and skills of knowledge, but it's also a good indicator for the psychological safety in a team, because if you feel you can speak up and you can have a really good discussion with other people in the team and then still like each other afterwards, then that's a really good thing. So if we see companies that we want to invest in and they say, oh no, we all like each other and we all agree, that's a really, really bad sign. So if you have conflicts in the team, task related, please know that that's a good thing, although it might feel really different. Then there's impostor syndrome. It might seem that successful entrepreneurs really always feel like that, but every entrepreneur feels also an imposter. Am I good enough? Can I really do this? Do people think I'm a fraud? The biggest difference between actually founders and people that don't start is that the drive for success of these founders is bigger than their fear of failure. So don't think that not everybody has this. Recognize it and also talk about it. Then I want to quickly talk about solo founders versus team founders, because we have this really strong emphasis on teams. And we look at a team, and we all know that the team is the most important thing for success. That doesn't mean that you cannot be a solo founder. People often assume that VCs don't like solo founders, and there are VCs out there that don't. But for us, a solo founder can still be great. We have 3 solo founders in our portfolio, almost 4, which is quite a significant number. And why we don't, it's actually already 4, almost 5. Why we don't mind solo founders, because co-founders, multiple founders can also lead to issues. If people don't agree on things, if they do not enough talk about their vision for the company, their passions, you often see teams breaking up. You don't have that with solo founders. And what is important for us with solo founders is that they actually can build a really great team. So for us, it's fine if you're a solo founder. What is important though with solo founders versus co-founders is that we pay more attention to their mental health and if they take enough holidays, because solo founders tend to not take holidays because they feel they have to be there for the company. So that's a special point of attention there. Other than that, mainly can they build their own kick-ass team. I think if you look in the media, you see all these stories about unicorns, big raises, a lot of success. So it's easy to think that everybody is successful, which is obviously not the case. You just hear much less about it. But this is a very important topic to talk about, because mental health with founders is really, really important. Everybody that started a company, including me, knows how tough it is. It's never as easy as you read in the media. Even the really big rounds, there's often a large story behind it. And I haven't read one story from a unicorn founder where everything went like really easy. So it's important to realize that you're not alone, that it's tough for everybody, and that's always a different story that people just do not put in the press, that's behind every success. But how do you keep mentally sane? Because I believe that it's crucial for your success. Otherwise you will burn out, or you just will stop. I have seen founders give up just because they couldn't handle it anymore. And the downsides of all these mega rounds is also that the pressure on founders is more severe than it has been. So you need to take care of yourself, of your physical health, but also your mental health. And what worked really well for me is starting a Coup club. So I invited a few peers that I thought, well, were my peers for dinner. And that has turned out into a group that we share everything with. So the challenges we have, the tough things, the big questions we ask ourselves, and everybody is really transparent. And we meet like every 2-3 months. And since you always have this place where you can talk about things, they become less heavy. So it's really important to have this. Even if you have a co-founder, you can feel very alone if not a lot of people around you are in similar situations or have to deal with the same level of stress. So make sure to have your own Coup club where you can share everything, people that understand you and that are not per se competitors of you. Then it's important to realize that the biggest superpower a founder needs to have is the ability to handle no's. So when you think about staying sane, is that you understand that you need to deal with a lot of no's all the time. And no's can be really different, and 9 out of 10 times a no is just a no, and everybody is fine with getting no's. It's part of the job. But there are also days where a no can feel different. A no can feel personal. A no can be much heavier, because it is you expected a yes. It's a no you didn't expect. It's a no you really can't have because you needed this yes for the success of the company. So the ability to handle no's is one of the superpowers, but don't be afraid if there's days where you cannot handle them. You have your Coup club, hopefully, but you also, it's fine if you just take a day and say, okay, this day it's not working for me. I'm just laying in bed and cry, and then the next day you're back again. Then I think it's important when you build your founding team that you choose, and that's not per se the founders, but the early team, that you choose Kung Fu Pandas. And what I mean with that is that these are people that do not per se fit in a box, but they have the willingness to learn and to make things happen. Especially early on in a company, you need people that can do a broad variety of things, and later on they might need to specialize. And of course, it's different when you need a developer in a certain language. But for a lot of the roles, you need people that are willing to put in the hours and that can do whatever is necessary. And these people later on need to become more specialists, because when you grow, you create teams. And I think that's two important things with these early people. It's to realize that not everybody can make that switch to become more specialized. And you will recognize these people that they become frustrated, and they don't want to specialize. They want to be this broadly responsible. And that can mean that these people are more suitable for the early stage of a company and less so for the later stage. So having an honest conversation and honor the things that they have done for the company is really important. But you also have people that can transform in a new role. And that's why we always celebrate it if people were with us for over 5 years, because it's really special if within a startup you can stay relevant. And then also you have the individual contributors. So those are the people that started with you early on, but are not per se managers. So when you grow as a company, normally people increase their responsibility, they become managers, but not everybody wants that. But they can still be really important for your company. And we made sure that we kept these individual contributors also involved in the more strategic decisions and of the company, because they have this ton of knowledge, and also they have this incredible knowledge about the culture of the company. So these people you need to be very scarce of. Then when you're hiring, it's important to realize that even though we do believe we live in a meritocracy, it's a meritocracy. So we tend to hire people that look like us. And if you want to build a really great team, diversity is crucial. So you need to hire people that are really good at what they do and might not look like you at all. Then what I found when I was building the teams is that you sometimes get a misunderstanding between different teams. So sales versus engineering, I think, is something a lot of people understand and recognize. So sales always says that engineering builds stuff that they can't sell, or they are too slow, they don't build the right teams, and the other way around. Engineering says sales builds sells what is not there, or what is not the best solution for the problem of the client. So there's these discussions between the two teams, and how we solved for that to get a better understanding between the teams is that we sent the entire sales team on a coding training, so they would understand that if they would ask for a drop down, that it's not just a drop down, so they would better understand them. And the engineering team we sent to a storytelling training, so they would much better in communicating to the often verbally strong sales team. So that really helped in their understanding and getting these teams working better together towards the same shared vision. Then the other thing that I've learned from a different entrepreneur, but that always stuck with me, is that it's better to have a no breath than a smelly breath. And that means that if somebody in your team is no longer functioning and they ruin the spirit in the team, they become a bottleneck, well, you recognize this person, and then it's better to get rid of them fast. And it often feels like, oh, let's keep them on, because you always not have enough people, so you can't lose this person. But from every time that I actually got rid of a person like this, it turned out to be a blessing, because other people pick up the things that need to be done, and everybody is always relieved that this person is gone, because they also see this. When you see it, they see it, and they expect you to act. And these kind of people can really become so negative in the company that other people leave. So make sure to remember, it's better to have no breath than a smelly breath. And then I want to end with, don't forget to celebrate. It's a long and tough journey, and don't just celebrate the end results. Make sure you celebrate the small wins also for the for your team. And what the lesson we had, because we had a champagne fridge in the office, and everybody could call for a champagne moment. The only rule was that they found that it was something to celebrate. And that way you get everybody in your team to celebrate success and not just the big deals. Because for somebody in the engineering team, maybe a bug fix that took them weeks is something to celebrate. For somebody in operations is to make certain things run smoother. So make sure to involve everybody in the wins that they see as wins. And I like to end with this one. I'm not delusional. I'm an entrepreneur. I love this image because I think a lot of us entrepreneurs recognize this, where you keep going and other people feel like you should stop already and think you're totally crazy. You have this vision with your company, and whatever happens, you want to make this success. And let's see if there's I'm looking at the question. What is the team member with the bad breath that is one of the co-founders? Yeah, that's more complicated. But also when it's one of the co-founders, you need to get rid of that person. And very often, if you have sensible discussions, you can work things out, and sometimes you cannot, and then it becomes really painful. I've seen that happen as well. But you need to keep in mind what is best at the end of the day for the company, and how can the company survive. And hopefully, that's also why we look at, when we speak to founders, we see like how open are they to feedback, because it's very important for founders to also recognize their own strength. Some founders are extremely good at that initial phase, but that later phase where processes come in place, they're just not good at. And it's important to know if they are aware of themselves, where their strengths are or not. So but also it really helps if you have these kind of conversations from day one. So you talk about what is it that excites you, that you can give each other honest feedback, that you have these this task-related conflict, that you are aware where you want to go. And if you make that a habit of at day one, it's much easier to get through these moments that are very painful. Working in an early stage of a startup, some volunteers are working with us. How can we deal with strict tasks, but in a kind way? Well, I think what is important with volunteers is that even if it's voluntarily, it is not, they need to realize that it still comes with certain obligations. And if they don't feel that that's for them, that they consider it to also be voluntarily. If you can be there and what you do, then that's not the right volunteer, to be honest. I think it needs to be clear for everybody up front what you expect from volunteers, so that you can be strict. And I think this really has to do with setting the right expectations. Other question, what would be the right approach to have a pre-deal or trial period with a new co-founder you don't know before committing to each other legally and starting? Yes, a very good one. I think what would be the best way if you don't know each other at all and you don't have the feeling that you could work really well together? I think you can agree on a lot of things already, like number of shares, the role, have a lot of good discussions about somebody's expectations, as mentioned, but then do things with a cliff, so that this person know if it doesn't work out and we agree it's not working out, then in 6 months or a year you lose the shares or the position in the company. I think, like with the other thing, it's very important to be clear upfront, to set the right expectations and to have ongoing discussions on where things are going, and don't sugarcoat stuff, because that's often just not helping a lot. I don't know if there's more questions, maybe in the chat. Oh, there are. As a founder, how do you ensure there's discipline in the team, yet create an environment where people can free to do what they want? I think that has to do with not giving people tasks, but end responsibility, and being very clear about the end goal. I hated if people felt they needed to report to me. I just wanted to hire really amazing people that I could give the end responsibility, and could trust that they would do the right thing. I'm not a great manager. I think I'm a great manager, but I'm not the kind of manager that looks every step of the way what you do. And so make sure you hire senior people and give them end responsibility. Be very clear about your vision and where you want to go, and have regular check-ins with the team where people are. And if these things are clear, normally everything else does work out. Should there be a system of rewarding team members who are performing well? Yes. Of course, I think definitely, especially in a startup, the one thing you can have as when you join early is stocks, or more responsibility, or special treatment. And I think these are really important also when salaries are lower. I think especially stocks, and there should be a difference between different team members. It should just be very clear for people when they are performing well and when they're not performing well. Because if it seems intransparent or arbitrary, then it will lead to a lot of distrust in the team and unhappy people. Do you have your points about personality and passion are very sharp? Do you have them in any written form that you could share? Yes, I can do that. I will. I will check with the organizers what best way to do it, but otherwise reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's see, I'm trying to go through the questions. Happy to be here. I think those were, there's one final question, and then I think we need to end because we're running over. What about taking on a temporary co-founder? Have you seen that? I think, to be honest, then you should not make this person a co-founder. You can have somebody temporary if you both agree on that. That's very senior and gets a lot of responsibility, but then I would not call it a co-founder if you already know that it's temporary. So thanks everybody for listening. Have a great weekend, a great rest of the event, and I'm looking forward to connect to you on LinkedIn. Thank you.